You want a podcast? Welcome to Flute 360, the podcast that reminds you everything is connected. I'm Dr. Heidi K. Begay, flutist, educator, creative entrepreneur, and follower of Christ. Here, we explore the full circle, the 360 of your life as a musician. Because who you are as a person shapes who you are as an artist. And the lessons you learn outside the practice room are just as vital as the hours with your flute in hand. From health and spiritual growth to artistry and career fulfillment, this space is where it all intersects. Come as you are. There's a seat for you at the Flute 360 table. Today's episode is episode 355, and it's titled, Your Spoken Voice is Your Flute Voice. Here's how to reunite them. Hey there, flutie friend. Welcome to episode 355. We are only 5 away from the big 360. I'm so excited. And I want to say thank you so much for being here and being a part of this amazing Flute 360 community. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, today's episode is for the flutists who feel disconnected from their musical performances. At the core of this disconnection, I really think one issue is this. We're not always confident in what we have to say, or our artistic voice gets separated from our first instrument, which is our physical body, our spoken voice. We often forget about this first instrument. Before we ever put the flute to our face, we were speaking. And if we can reconnect with that spoken voice, I think the floodgates will open up for your artistic voice to flow and to soar. Now, somewhere along the way, those two voices drift apart. And when they're not aligned, the flute voice, your artistic voice, feels perhaps shaky, uncertain, or muted. Now, I know this all too well. Before college, before degrees, before juries, before grades in music, I felt incredibly free in my performances. I rarely, hardly, if ever, got nervous. I didn't struggle with performance anxiety. My very first teacher, Mrs. Catherine Witt Reinhardt, may she rest in peace, and I miss her so much. She gave me the kind of space every young musician dreams of. She gave me space to talk about my life. She gave me space to mourn the divorce of my parents, my first breakup, telling her about my first boyfriend, and everything a teenager dreams of. She gave me that space to be myself. She let me explore, be curious about life, and have fun with music making. So in that freedom, I felt empowered, confident, and exhilarated. I felt at home playing in church and praising God with my flute. All of it felt extremely organic, natural, and joyful. Then I went off to college and suddenly felt like a fish out of water. Now in college, in the music curriculum program, I was being graded like everybody else. Now there were rules and expectations, checklists, jury forms, and I felt the pressure. And over time, through my collegiate and graduate studies, that freedom shrank. I really felt boxed in. I felt like I was being graded all the time. And the joy of music making was really sucked out from my being. And honestly, not to overshare, but so that way you know that you are in a common area with like-minded musicians. And honestly, the toxic professors at the time, they didn't help at all. Like, if I could go back and rewrite that script, I so would. And I say that, but take that with a grain of salt, because also I'm very thankful for that toxicity in a very weird way, because it taught me how to be resilient. It taught me how to be a more healthy mentor for my own present day students. So I'm getting off topic, but the toxic environment and the toxic people didn't help me already feeling suffocated and my artistry drowning. Some of these toxic professors would constantly compare me to other flute majors. Why can't you sound more like Judy or Anna or Susie? Why can't you be more like them? And because of those words of discouragement, I really felt like I couldn't measure up. Now, sure, I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. I'm sure many of them meant well. They wanted me to reach a certain standard so I could succeed in performance-based careers. But in some capacity, it definitely backfired. The constant comparison, the pressure, the perfectionism, it slowly chipped away at my confidence. And I share all of this not because I'm making it about me, but I want you to know that you are among musicians with a similar experience if you have experienced something similar in your own music world. You're not alone. So when you're in an environment where you are repeatedly compared, perhaps diminished, or made to feel inferior to air quote better musicians, something inside you breaks. Your worth feels questionable. Your musical voice feels unworthy. And anytime you show up to speak through your instrument, it's as if your voice is cut off mid-sentence. Now, what that looked like for me in my flute world is my hands would shake uncontrollably. Oh my goodness, like it looked as if I was about to drop the flute. The head joint trembled against my chin. Blowing air or even more air felt impossible because my confidence was shattered. So bringing it back to you, if you're in that place where your voice feels stifled, where you can't resonate, where your worth as an artist feels blurry, I encourage you to go back. Revisit past conversations, old relationships, old environments. Notice which ones contributed to this disconnection. When you're ready, begin untangling them. Because unprocessed pain, it accumulates. The body keeps score. That's what I've learned through my many different seasons of healing. And for many of us, that accumulation shows up as heightened performance anxiety, or perhaps imposter syndrome, and a sense that our artistic spirit has been broken. Now, when you go back in time and start identifying the places where that disconnection could have occurred, I also want you to flip the coin and look at the other side of the coin. Go back in time and reconnect with the positive experiences too. One place I go back to in time in my flute journey is with my first flute teacher, Mrs. Reinhard, and my memories of playing in church with incredible musicians and women who I still look up to today. like Karis Buell and Jennifer Wiggins, people and women who shaped me, inspired me, and gave me a sense of belonging as a young artist. So, the good, bad, the ugly, and everything in between, I invite you, when you're ready, to revisit your younger musical self. So I have some questions for you as you're going through this exercise. Perhaps journal this out, talk it out, reflect on it, give yourself some space in silence to reminisce on these memories. When did you feel musically free? Or when were you in your pocket? When did performance anxiety not even register because you were so alive in your art? I want you to go back and identify who was there, what was happening, and what the environment felt like. Was it the person, a particular conversation, perhaps the atmosphere, the safety? Break down what contributed to your confidence and joy. These moments matter. They become mental real estate you can refill your mind with. And like I said in a past episode, if the toxic memories no longer serve you, why would you let them take up that space, that real estate in your mind? Clear them out, get rid of them so healing can begin. I think identifying where the break first happened is critical to reclaiming your voice. And when I talk about your voice, right, I don't just mean your artistic voice. I also mean your primary voice. I talk about this in lessons and coaching all the time, and I will die on this hill. I'm talking about your primary voice, your spoken voice, your embodied voice. Now, you know I'm a believer, so I'm going to go there for a half a second. And that is God created your spirit, your soul, to dwell within this body He's given you. It's a temple. We are asked to steward it well. That's why so much of this podcast and my brand and my business and my coaching is why I talk passionately about health in all aspects: mental, physical, spiritual, movement, nourishment. Because when your body thrives in all of those different capacities, your mind thrives and your artistry follows. Your artistry will flow naturally from a healed body, from a nourished body. So if your musical voice feels broken, please consider tapping into your first voice, your spoken voice. Notice how you use your spoken voice in the world outside of playing. When are you confident? Is it when you are with a particular group of colleagues, friends, family, loved ones, peers, in a mastermind, in a private lesson? Maybe you feel super confident using your spoken voice while having coffee or tea or dessert with a loved one. When do your ideas flow freely? And I think that clarity matters too, because your spoken voice can help repair your artistic voice. Now, if your flute voice feels hesitant, unsure, remind yourself, when I speak in this environment, fill in the blank, when I speak in blank environment, I feel alive and grounded. Why can't that same confidence over there in that environment transfer over to your artistic expression? It easily can. It so can. And I coach people through that all the time. There's no separation. The spoken voice and the artistic voice, they are one. Integrate it, fuse it together, and sparks will fly. Now, your spoken voice and your flute voice, they are not separate. I could literally underline, bold, highlight that all day long. The way you converse with friends is the same energy exchange happening in ensemble playing. Think about it. So in a woodwind quintet, you are exchanging melodic ideas. You are passing back and forth motives, melodies, and you are supporting one another in a conversational style within the quintet. Storytelling through speech is storytelling through music. The only difference is one uses vocal cords and the other uses air and a metal tube. But energetically, they are identical. I've shared this sentiment before, and I will share it again because, again, I will die on this hill as well. Podcasting taught me this. That's why I advocate for the modern day flutist to really show up and practice using your spoken voice. Because podcasting using my spoken voice taught me this sentiment, how the two are actually one of the same. Hosting guests, having deep conversations in the Flute 360 podcast world, it woke up my spoken voice all over again. It gave me permission to take up space. It reminded me I do have something to say. And that realization helped me bridge the gap between the voice I use in conversation through the podcast and the voice I had been afraid to use in music. When you bring the ease, the fun, and flow of your spoken conversations into your musical conversations, it could be in a variety of different setups, right? With a pianist, a quintet, solo flute, you and the audience, an orchestra. Something shifts and your confidence will rise. Imposter syndrome, it softens. Your performance anxiety, it decreases because you are showing up and you are saying, I value my own voice again. My own voice has worth. I do have something to say. This is why I encourage musicians to podcast, to vlog, go live via Instagram or Facebook, and get comfortable hearing themselves speak. Now, this nugget that I'm going to offer you, I truly believe it at its core that it works. When you hear your own spoken voice in terms of its tone, timbre, quirks, and your natural expression through a microphone and into your earbuds, you learn to relax into who you are. You start to begin to be more comfortable in your own skin. And the more comfortable you are with your spoken expression, the more natural it becomes then to express yourself artistically and musically. So, if your artistic voice feels disconnected, try speaking more. This is something I give to my clients and students all the time. That's why I have this really cool storytelling flute method that I give to my flute students. If you can talk through the story of the piece and be comfortable with the way you express yourself through the story and hear your voice speaking out the story, then when you go to put the flute to your face, it's this natural connection between spoken voice to artistic voice because you've done that deep work. So if your artistic voice feels disconnected, speak more. Notice how you show up in your daily conversations. Practice expressing yourself in safe spaces, perhaps with friends, a therapist, your spouse, your journal, or even a camera recording. And along with hearing yourself speak, on the same side of the coin, be okay also with silence. Be okay with pausing and thinking about the words that you want to articulate. Get comfortable being fully you. What I've learned in dialogue and sharing conversation in the podcasting world is listening is more than half of the communicative formula. Communication isn't just about speaking your ideas. It's about listening. It's about tuning in and really thinking what you want to say with intention. Are you speaking just to speak, just to hear your voice talk? Or are you speaking with convincing, intentional ideas? And part of that is being okay with the processing, the thinking, and the silence of it too. Listening is the most important formula of the communication setup. So the more you speak, the more you converse, the more you exchange ideas between you and a fellow other human being, the more comfortable you are in that space. Bring that level of comfort of dialogue into your flute world. Now, when the two voices merge again, your spoken voice and your flute voice, the alignment comes. Joy gets renewed. Freedom comes. And I want that for you, friend. I don't want you to show up and be on stage or at a recital knowing you have something really special to give, but that voice feels blocked or stuck. Go back through these journal prompts and go back in time and revisit the moment, the environment, the person, perhaps where that disconnection happened in your artistic voice. And also go back in time through these journal prompts and revisit when your artistic voice was overflowing and it felt natural. And then go over into the spoken world. If you like to write pen to paper, that's communication. If you like to talk with family and friends, that's a form of communication. Notice the ease over there. And if you can bring that ease within dialogue through your first instrument, bridge that gap into your flute voice to have that spark come alive again. Because there's nothing worse than putting in the hours of practicing, and then when you show up to deliver and share your beautiful music, there's a block. I hate that feeling. And it will happen to the best of us. But if you can be okay in your first instrument, your body, be comfortable in your own skin, hear your voice. For me, I have such a nasally Chicagoan accent that sometimes I'm like, I sound like Aflac the duck from that insurance company. But I'm okay with hearing that timbre, that tone. I'm okay watching myself on screen. I love to talk with my hands. That's what makes me feel comfortable. So knowing that about my communicative style, I can bring that movement, those facial expressions into my flute playing. That gives me permission to move more, to be more myself with the flute to my face, that I don't have to sound like any other musician out there. I can be confident with my musical interpretation and how I want to share with intention to my audience the work that I've done with a Bach sonata, Prokofiev, an orchestral solo, etc. You can take up healthy space. You have a voice. You have ideas worth sharing. Be well. Thank you so much for clicking play on this episode. And I would be remiss not to invite you into the next live session of the Flute 360 Accelerator program. Reason being is because these topics that I'm sharing in these solo episodes are the very thing that we talk about in group sessions. This is a very intimate, close-knit community of people who really care for each other and support each other and want the best for each other. We get to do life with each other, and it's a really fun and neat experience. All you have to do to grab your Flute 360 seat is go to my website at heidikbegay.com/shop or click the link in the show notes below. Please like, follow, and subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss out on future episodes. Thank you so much, and until next time. Let's talk about flute.